I'd like to welcome Mr. Shane Ram, MSc Strategic Thinking, MSc E-Business. Shane Ram is a former C-suite executive turned strategic advisor and coach to CEOs, entrepreneurs. Shane works with CEOs, senior executive, corporations, 6-7-figure business owners, and entrepreneurs to increase revenue, become better leaders, and live more fulfilling lives. He is the inventor of MetaB leadership technology, which is a neuroscience-informed, evidence-based process to rapidly create the desired leadership behaviors. He's the author of Future Ready Leadership, a book that provides the 8 must-have strategies for leaders to thrive in an uncertain and volatile future. His strikingly effective coaching process shows individuals and corporate teams how to create the personal lives they want while becoming a megastar at work. Shane has traveled extensively, training and speaking, and is a regular at global conferences and podcasts. He has shared the same stage with people like Malcolm Gladwell, Sharon Lecter, and Bob Berg. He also pitched to Kevin Harrington, the original shark from Shark Tank. He has trained and consulted in the UK, Africa, USA, Middle East, Canada, India, Central America, South Pacific, and most Caribbean countries. Shane holds a master's degree in e-business from the University of Surrey and a master's in strategic thinking from Edinburgh Business School. Let's welcome Mr. Shane Ram.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, fellow time travelers. Yes, I dare say for today, we are on the precipice of a future so vividly imagined, it would even make George Jetson apply for a remote job. So as I mentioned, George Jetson, if you want to get a glimpse into the future, you go back and look at those episodes of the Jetsons. So I just looked at the opening spiel of every show, and I was reminded this weekend when I met someone, and he said he had a very scary experience where he traveled to the US, and he was picked up by a friend who owned a Tesla. And in the middle of the journey, he flipped around the seat and started to look backwards, talking to the kids in the back seat. Okay? And if you look at the opening of the Jetsons TV show, you see that when he's dropping off the family, he would fly his mini spaceship, and then he'd turn around and kiss everybody goodbye and drop the kids off, and that's how they landed into their schools and the workplace, right? So that future is here. So picture this, a world where your morning alarm is not a mere sound, but a gentle nudge from your AI assistant, much like you would get on a first-class flight on Emirates. Also brewing your coffee with the precision of a Michelin star barista and picking out your outfit based on the weather, your schedule, and I dare say your mood. Yes, we are embarking on a journey where the line between human intuition and artificial intelligence becomes as blurred as my vision after reading the terms and conditions of any software upgrade. In this world, business just don't operate. They predict, they adapt, evolve faster than a rumor at the water cooler in your office. Imagine a future where your cargo ships navigates the world's oceans autonomously, optimizing their routes in real time to avoid storms and reach their destinations faster. Picture warehouses where robots and humans work side by side, each doing what they do best, increasing efficiency and reducing errors, not as competitors, but as comrades in arms, tackling the day's challenges with a camaraderie that would put Bungie and Fayan to shame. Visualize a world where AI-powered systems predict market trends, helping you make strategic decisions that keep you ahead of the competition. Envision a future so efficient that your delivery drones have friendly chats with your dog, convincing Fido that they come in peace and indeed with some treats. Think of a world where your logistics operate with the precision of a Swiss watch and the anticipation of a child on Christmas Eve, predicting and solving problems before they even arise, making the Bermuda Triangle of lost shipments a mere myth to scare new recruits. This is not science fiction, ladies and gentlemen, but a glimpse into the future. Well, now. We stand at the precipice of a new era, a time of unprecedented change and boundless opportunity. This moment is not one to fear, but to embrace with anticipation in a moment that will inspire us to innovate, collaborate, and shape the future. Artificial intelligence, AI, is the massive wave of disruption that is upon us. It is not an overstatement to say that in the next 5 years, there will only be two types of companies: those that use AI and those no longer in business. But let's not view this as a threat, but rather to seize it as an incredible opportunity that it is. But to harness these opportunities, we must future-proof our mindset. We must understand that AI is just a tool, but more than just a tool, but a partner. A partner that would enable us to work smarter, not harder. A partner that will augment our capabilities, not replace them. A partner that will help us see patterns, make predictions, and solve problems in ways we never thought possible. To thrive in this new era, we must foster a culture of continuous learning and adaptability. We must encourage collaboration between our human workforce and AI, for it's the synergy that we will find unprecedented efficiency and effectiveness. We must inspire each other to embrace change and innovation, for it's through the spirit of relentless curiosity that we will unlock the potential of AI. Let's dive into this adventure, shall we? Because the future, my friends, it's not just coming. It's here, it's now. It's waiting for us to make the most out of it. And who knows, by the end of this presentation, you might just be convinced that AI is the best thing that happened to humanity since sliced bread, or at least the invention of the remote control. So, in the world of AI, that was what we call, it's on. So that's what we call the deep fake. This is my 3rd year at the Shipping Association, and I want to say I'm very honored to be called 3 years in a row, but also very challenging because I need to step up my game every year. Okay, so if you know me, I never stand behind a lectern and speak, right? But how did you find the talk, though? Good? Well, it took AI 3 minutes and 3 seconds to write that speech. If you know me, I'm not that funny, right? So what I thought, though, is that it helped me with that creativity. Of course, it didn't have Bungie and Fayan when ChatGPT produced it. But it took me 3 minutes to prompt it, and it took 3 seconds to write it. Okay? So that is what I want to share in terms of how it's going to transform our lives and your business. So I know over the last couple of years, I've been sort of presenting a picture of what the future looks like. And sometimes I tell people when they want to hire me as a motivational speaker, I said, I'm not, but I hope that you get inspired to take action after I speak. So I was doing a session with the senior team at Hilton, and the CEO said, I see why. And that is because and from last year in CSA, painting a picture of the disruption that is coming. For some people, it's not that inspiring. They see it as very, very challenging. And the fact is that we are just about 5 years away where AI will supersede human intelligence. 5 years also coincides with about 100 years since the Great Depression. Okay, and as I said previously, that the world goes through these cycles, 100-year cycles. So there's a lot of disruption, the main one being technology, and the main technology is artificial intelligence. So I've been talking about what are the challenges that we can expect, but I also asked to get an opportunity to talk about the opportunities that the disruption presents. And this is the opportunity. So in the first year, I spoke about my book, basically, Future Ready Leadership. And the more that I read it, the more I think those strategies are going to be very useful now and in the near future. So and I know many of you would have gotten copies, so please open it and read it if you didn't. And those who didn't, we have copies here you can get. All right, so today I want to talk about how do you future-proof your mindset, because it's all about change, and the minister mentioned it about 15 times in his speech. But it's not something that human beings like to do. It's not something that the brain is wired to do. So we'll also talk about something called neuro-leadership. As leaders in your organization, you have to help and understand how the brain works to help people to change, to adapt. Okay, so, all right, I may need to, I don't know why my clicker switched it on or off. Not sure why it's not going. Oh, it's changed. All right, so we said that there are basically going to be two futures. One where you utilize artificial intelligence, or you're going to be out of business, basically. And I'm going to show you some examples. And we've had some heads up, so to speak, over the years, where we found companies like Uber, for example, that disrupted the taxi service. We found companies that disrupted the hotel industries, things like that. And what is happening now, guys, is that the technology, if you're familiar with Moore's law, where the technology doubles in power every 2 years. So Hanna and Barbara, who came up with the Jetsons in the 1990s, had a vision of what the future looked like. But what is happening now is that the technology is at a stage where they can make those visions happen. And that's what is happening right now. So we are at the Moore's law, if you're familiar with it, at this curve of very steep change. From the time that I started this presentation to the time that it ended, in a matter of days, the technology is changing. For example, those images, you find that they are sort of square. And then, so at a point in time, ChatGPT could have only done square images. And by the time the weekend was over, it gave me an opportunity to choose how I wanted it. It could be landscape, portrait, or square, right? And mind you, ChatGPT created all of these images in a matter of seconds. So enjoy them, but also think about what it would have costed you to hire a graphic artist to create any one of these images. And ChatGPT was able to do it in 3 seconds. Okay, so that's what we, all right, went a little too far, sorry. So I want to bring you back to an old, very, very familiar statement by Charles Darwin. He said, it's not the strongest. So it's not going to be about how good you are or how good your team is. That is important. But it's not going to be about that. It's not going to be how intelligent you are or how intelligent your team is. It's going to be important, yes. But as Charles Darwin said, it's the ones who are able to adapt to change are the ones who are going to survive. Okay, so the ChatGPT will increase intelligence. As I said, it's going to match human intelligence. But as we saw when the creators of George Jetson was there, that the human mind was still powerful, more powerful, but now the AI has caught up. And it says in 5 years, they're going to be about the same. Okay, so just think about what's going to happen. So while we talk about artificial intelligence, we need to talk about your adaptability to change, your staff's adaptability to change. That is going to be the critical skill going forward. So embracing the inevitable, why change isn't so bad. So first of all, change allows us to, I know you're probably fed up of hearing change is the only constant, right? But the fact is that it's true, and it only will become an enemy if we make it one. Okay, so it's inevitable, it's true, it's a truth that is not going to change. Now, sometimes change makes us uncomfortable. It provides discomfort. But here's something, that when we sit in one place, when we don't move, when we don't change, what happens is something called atrophy. You're all familiar with the term, right? So neurologically, biologically, we suffer from atrophy. And that is not good for our brain to make decisions and to solve problems and that sort of thing. So that change allows us to be, to grow, and discomfort is a good thing. The third idea is to understand that AI is a tool, not a tyrant. Because when we start to talk about the capabilities, a lot of people get scared. Okay, it's not a tyrant. It's based on intelligence. Higher forms of intelligence do not want to dominate us. It's humans who want to dominate others. Intelligence doesn't want to dominate anything or anyone. So it's not a tyrant. Now, because of its ability to create things, yes, people can use it for negative things, but that has been so for everything since time immemorial, all right? So what is important is to understand, and I do a lot of brain work, so to speak, so the neuroscience of change resistance. So you all should also be very familiar with the saying that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. All right, and so therefore we should embrace the disruption, but to also understand how the brain works and resistance to change, because the brain likes comfort. It likes familiarity, okay? And when something is disruptive, we get resistance to it. So you need to understand that yourself as leaders, your natural brain's reaction is to resist. Okay, you want your staff to come along, they are going to resist. It is just how their brain is wired. Nothing is wrong with them, right? Because the brain is wired to protect us. We don't like change, we don't know what the familiar is, it's going to be dangerous, so it's protective in nature. So there's a term called psychological safety now, but it's really making people feel safe about change, because it's going to happen. So that, I believe, is required, what we call neuro leadership, where to manage through change, you as leaders need to understand what's happening in you, what's happening in your staff, and probably worse off in your staff, because you're the leaders, you're more trained, you're more experienced, you take more risks than other people. So this is going to be the critical success factor moving forward, is the adaptability to change and to understand how the brain works. So when you feel that resistance to that change, and AI, is it going to take away jobs, and that sort of thing, we'll talk about that in a minute, it's actually going to quadruple your workforce without adding a cent to payroll. That's the minimum potential of utilizing artificial intelligence, right? So when you feel that resistance, it's a sign of learning. When you feel out of depth, because this thing is changing like crazy fast every day, okay? And you're going to feel out of depth. But it's a good thing, because it's an opportunity to learn. And as I said in my speech last year, where change is a good thing, because what happens is that studies have shown that, when you have these shocks, and you're able to deal with it, you are able to build what we call resilience. That word came out of COVID. Well, it has always been there, but, kind of grew in prominence after COVID, where we need to become resilient. And the studies have shown that the more we have these shocks and these disruptions, that we build resilience from dealing with the disruptions. So it's a good thing. And more importantly, it leads to innovation, right? So there's a lot of talk in schools about, are they going to be not as smart? Are they not going to be as creative? And what I found, even just doing that little speech, was that it prompted me to be creative, because, in the camaraderie example, it came up with something from the movie Buddy Cop, right? And I don't think people here could relate, or everyone could relate to that. And that's why it forced me to, think about, well, who has good camaraderie that a lot of people would know. So it's not taking away your creativity, but actually forcing you to be creative. And it is said that apart from adaptability, that's going to be one of the critical skills that you're going to have to develop in the future. So it's going to lead to innovation. So what I'm going to do is going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer now, but for you to contemplate, you might want to write them down. It's not going to be 20 questions, but how you future-proof your mindset, I think these are important questions to consider moving forward personally and professionally. So question number one, have you prioritized AI as the most important tech in your life as yet, all right? Because there are so many applications of this. It's not funny. I was talking about school recently, and in my daughter's school, they had an educational psychologist that came, and she was talking about helping helping the teachers to figure out the kids' learning styles, who's visual, who's auditory, who's kinesthetic. And a teacher with 28 kids running around trying to figure out, well, you are visual, you are kinesthetic, let me change how I talk to you and change how I talk to you and how I teach you this lesson, is not going to happen. Okay? But with AI, it's amazing, right? It's going to pick up via e-learning with the cameras to figure out if this child is engaged or not from their eyes and their body language. And if they're not engaged, you're going to change the lesson. And from your eyes, you can tell whether someone is visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. It's a story for another day, but easily from people's eyes, you can tell. So that camera could look at them and figure out what is the best lesson to teach them, or the best methodology to teach them. Okay, so that's education. In terms of medicine, it's crazy in terms of what they're already able to do. It is said that in a few years, probably, maybe in advanced countries like the US, that a doctor would not be able to give a diagnosis without using artificial intelligence. Legally, many years before AI became a thing, it was shown that artificial intelligence, or the software, was able to make better bail decisions than judges. Right? Yep. Yep, that's easy, right? So have you prioritized AI as your tech? Are you clear about AI's impact on your family? So in 2013, there's this movie called Her. Okay, and if you Google it up, you'll see the description is based in near future LA. So 2013, near future LA. So Theodore was a kind of introverted guy, a little bit depressed because he's at the latter stages of a divorce. And then he meets an artificial intelligence by the name of Samantha, who is a lot more empathetic than most human beings in the world. And Theodore fell in love with Samantha because she was witty, she was empathetic, she was caring. So are you prepared that, maybe your kids say, I'm in love with a humanoid? Yep. Right? Right? Are you prepared? It's like, I want to get married to, because robotics is also growing, the potential of it growing exponentially. All right, but really, you have to think about its impact on your family. I mean, that's just one impact, how your kids learn, what happens in the household. But you want to check out that movie, because everything, guys, is happening like right now, and it's so interesting. I think, we are so fortunate to be born and be alive in this time of history. I don't think there's any more fascinating time. So that's another question. Are you clear about how AI is going to impact your business and your industry? Minister spoke about when he went to Miami, what he saw and the upgrades that are required. you have to be very, very aware of how it's going to impact your business and your industry. And I want to give you a quick example of, all right, I'll get to that. I just said in 5 years that AI would be smarter than us. So one of the things you have to check is your comfort level with dealing with smart people. Yeah, are you comfortable dealing with smart people? Right, and I do leadership, and a lot of leaders don't like strong people around them. They feel insecure. So you ought to get comfortable with this thing being smarter than you, or people using it being smarter than you, coming up with ideas and solutions to problems better than you have and all of your years of experience. Okay? So the question is, will AI dominate humanity? And I don't think so. I don't think that its intelligence is built to necessarily do that. But the question that you have to ask is, what is your comfort level with working with smarter people? And then we get into these things now where the robots are becoming so much more human-like that they're called humanoids. Okay? So you have to figure out what are the barriers in your organization to adopting artificial intelligence. Financial barriers, skill barriers, mindset barriers. What are the barriers to implementing AI in your organization? You have to, otherwise, seriously, your business would be at risk. Competitive threats. Right? It is, how might competitors leverage artificial intelligence to disrupt your market, your industry? All right? I have had to learn marketing over the years to run my own business. And we started a marketing agency recently, like in no time at all. And we're able to produce ads that you would pay a marketing agency thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for. So let me show you an example. So this is a regular ad for a company that does ultrasound. So it's asking, why it's important to get an early ultrasound. And as you see, why should you get an early pregnancy ultrasound to confirm pregnancy, check for multiple pregnancies, the heartbeat, et cetera, et cetera. Very plain Jane kind of thing. So I took that information, threw it into ChatGPT and said, could you give us, right from the perspective of this unborn baby, probably struggling and trying to get his mom or her mom to get a checkup. So this is what ChatGPT said. Hi, Mom, it's me, your little one on a big journey. I need your help to make sure everything is going on just right inside our cozy nook. Eastern Medical Imaging Services can give us a peek into with an early pregnancy ultrasound so that you could be sure that I'm attaching right and my heart beats strong. They're offering a 15% discount if you book this week, and it's our chance to ensure my growth is on track. Phone number, etc. Love, your tiny, mighty explorer. Right? Because emotions, people buy on emotions. And then I took that and I said, can you create a matching image? Created that image in 2 seconds. Then I said, I want a forward-facing image. Give me this. Then I took the words that the fetus said, and I put it into another AI app that turns words into voice. And there's another AI app that adds voice to a still picture. And then,
hi, Mom. It's me, your little one on a big journey. I need your help to make sure everything is going just right inside our cozy nook. Eastern Medical Imaging Services.
Sorry, I don't know why I did.
Give us a peek with an early pregnancy ultrasound, so you can be sure I'm attaching right and my heart.
I didn't get a baby's voice, right? But I was just playing around, and I'm an amateur at this.
Our chance to ensure my growth is on track. Please, let's check together for peace of mind. Call phone 221 8895 or WhatsApp 291 344 your tiny but mighty explorer.
All right. Robbie, it didn't take me 20 minutes to do all of that. All right, so you can significantly cut your marketing cost. Videos now, Tyler Perry, he had, was planning to invest $900 million into a studio, and then OpenAI came out with something called Sora, where you could type text and it will create a movie for you. He scrapped the project. Yeah, scrapped a $900 million project because the artificial intelligence can create a movie from text. I'm getting goose pimples saying this to you. I don't know if you are, right? So you have, the other question is, how prepared is your organization to respond to AI-driven disruptions, both the opportunities and the threats? So your disruption readiness, how ready are you to take on that? I don't know how ready the big marketing agencies are when I start to run with my AI marketing agency, right? So customer service enhancements, how you can use things like chatbots that has been using for a little while to relate to your customers so that you have customer service 24/7 when no one is around. The chatbots never go to sleep, they never get tired, they don't go to the union, okay? Right? So, scenario planning. How are you using AI to simulate future scenarios, strategic responses, ensuring resilience and potential disruptions, okay? So AI could also help you with scenario planning, right? That's an important tool that you can use it for. Very important, workforce transformation. How will this impact your workforce? How can you prepare your employees to transition so that they get the skills needed for the future? And here's what, interestingly enough, right here in Trinidad, we have people who are able to help organizations to upskill people quickly. As a matter of fact, there's a guy, I think, no, he didn't speak at CSA last year, but a local guy called Leslie Leafuk. Because you need to understand a little bit the language of AI, he is creating simpler forms that you just put in what you want in your natural language, and it will touch base with the AI in the background so that you don't have to learn how to necessarily prompt it, so that more employees will be able to use it. Okay, because it's not a difficult skill to use in order to prompt it. It's like you have to, there's a formula called role. So for example, when I asked it to create that, I said act as an, so that's how you have to start it off, act as an expert speechwriter. You've been writing keynotes for top keynote speakers for the last 20 years. Write a speech for the Shipping Association, talk about AI and the disruption in their personal and business life. That was it, and that's what it produced. All right, so you have to think about that. You have to think about talent acquisition, because some of your people may not be able to transition to this. So how would you be able to attract and develop people with the necessary AI skills for your future opportunities that it's going to present in your operations? So really important, the fastest way to get anywhere is to partner with people. Okay, and again, I had a peek into this guy's system, and he has replicated every possible job in every department in his AI system. If you want a speechwriter, if you want a logistics person, if you want a human resource, whatever, he has duplicated every single role in every single industry. So I'm not making a plug for him, but when I looked at the system, I thought it was very, very powerful to make it easier for companies like yours to get into partnerships that will put you ahead of the competition, so to speak. And really important, your innovation ecosystem. I think I'm creative, but AI gives me a whole different perspective on innovation and creativity. And what it does, when you create your own AI, right, because ChatGPT is open, So you don't want to put confidential information. You don't want to put intellectual property. But when you have your personal AI, it learns you, and it keeps getting better and better and better. So when I write my social media posts now, it pulls and it figures out my brand voice. And everything else it writes after for me is in my brand voice. Okay, so it could help you with everything from core operations to customer offerings. So I want to give you some practical tips. So now that you understand it, how to navigate this AI landscape. So one is that you want to start small. All right, don't jump in and go into big expenditures and that sort of thing. You want to start small, and where you want to start is operational efficiency. Okay, operational efficiency. That's the fastest way to start if you want to. It could also help you to respond to emails, write letters, do ads, that stuff. Michelle had asked me, Shane, could you do a couple posts to advertise this? And I just put it up, and within minutes, here are the 5 social media posts, copy, paste, send to Michelle. I didn't have to sit down and think about it and, please, come along to SATT 86 AGM and Business Forum. No, it did all of that. It pulled, it said at Plip Deco House, it had the phone number to call every single one, and you just copy and paste every single day. You could even automate that into Canva, where, it tells it, publish this on March 11, March 12, March 13, and, 5 o'clock in the morning, because that's the best time to post to get visibility. While you're asleep, all your stuff is happening. All right, so operational efficiency, really important. If you're not that tech savvy, find a tech buddy, right? Because tech is the disruption, and you have to have people who understand what it is. This is something that you don't want to penny pinch on, right? It's not, because it has the opportunity to radically change your business, your industry. It's going to take a learning curve. Right? It's going to take some time to learn it, and as you learn, it changes. And as you learn, it changes, and it gets better. So all I'm going to have to say is embrace it, because that is what is going to happen. Okay? And fourthly, stay curious about it. Learn, figure out what it can do, keep up with it. Maybe some blogs that speak about AI, because I'm sure between finalizing my presentation and by tomorrow, something else is going to change, because it's so rapidly changing. So this AI is the great disruption. But as Napoleon Hill said, that in every challenge creates a seed of equal or greater opportunity. And there's no point in human history that you have the technology to change your life and your business like ever before, right? I mean, people know me in leadership and neuroscience and that sort of thing, but my first master's was in e-business, right? And I could tell you that, a few years ago, I thought blockchain would have been the game changer technology. Then there is virtual reality, and oh my God, you should see when virtual reality and artificial intelligence combine, it's going to be crazy in terms of how people learn. You imagine that you putting on, the glasses or whatever, and the history lesson takes you back to whether if it's in Africa or whatever, like a real life scenario, so that you learn in this context. And you could take the text with all of the history that is written, put it into AI and say, create a video based on this text, and then upload the video to the virtual reality, and you could learn like if you were right there walking with, even in Trinidad, the Caribs and the Arawaks. All right, so the future is here, guys, and my message today is that we are at this cusp of radical disruption. It creates challenges, yes, but it creates the greatest opportunity, I think, that I've ever seen for us to have better lives and better businesses. So I thank you for your attention. I hope this was useful for you guys, and that you really embrace the future by really first protecting your mindset about how we take the opportunities that AI presents. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you. AI itself, there are tons and tons of applications. So for example, if you have a link with a lot of text, there's something called Link Reader. You could ask it, what it's good at is summarizing. So you could say, read this article and summarize the 10 key points for me. They'll do it for you in 2 seconds. All right. They create graphs and charts. There's another app that, when I present like a pie chart, you punch in the information, copy and paste, and it produces a graph for you in no time at all. Images, that sort of thing. I mean, at $20 a month to do those simple things, extremely affordable at this point in time.
Shane, thanks again for the presentation. So, we talk about the challenges and the threats and the opportunities, but I was just wondering your thoughts on what are we doing now? Are we doing enough in terms of guiding our children in terms of choosing career paths moving forward? Because, I understand that there's a listing that suggests that there's certain jobs that will no longer be relevant. So how do we help guide our children in terms of career paths? Jobs will exist.
Yeah. So that's a great question, and even with my daughter, kids they change ever so often of what they're interested in, but we spoke about creativity, that whatever field that you're going into, one of the critical skills that you're going to have to learn is creativity. So it's a great question. But again, AI is not meant to replace. Yes, it's going to replace certain types of jobs, but will create other types of jobs. It will make jobs easier. That happens over time. So it's something that we said, stay curious in terms of how it's going to change. Because my 9-year-old, by the time she's 18, she can't decide right now. Even at 14, you can't decide right now, how it's going to change. And even when you learn, whatever you learn, like somebody doing medicine now, and then, it's going to change where you have robotics, you have artificial intelligence that is now going to become part of law, for example, to say that you have to use this in order to make a diagnosis. Does it make you less smart? Not necessarily, but understanding the tools that will actually augment and not replace human skills. But it's a great question. It's going to change every day, every week, possibly in terms of how careers are going to change. So that in itself is a serious disruption. But also, I think more importantly, if we embrace it, we are going to significantly reduce mental health issues, significantly reduce stress, significantly reduce workload that causes stress, because it's going to become so much easier when we get the job done. So that's why I said the mindset has to change, where we don't have to do as many steps, we don't have to learn as much, but what do we want? Do we want to measure how much we have learned? That's how our education system is, how much you remember, how much you have learned. But the key thing is, can we get the job done? Right? So we have to shift that mindset from measuring, how much you learn, how good you at learning, how good you at remembering, versus application to get the job done. I think that's a mindset.
Is there any threat of plagiarism?
There is. So for example, even in the speech that I wrote, again, because I have a very small creativity when it comes to humor and jokes. So you could actually tell it to, now Jim Carrey wasn't the guy I used, otherwise you would have gotten different jokes, right? But you could tell it to speak and to think in this particular character. And that's why we said that you don't want to have your intellectual property on open platforms. Right? You could have your personal AI that learns about you and helps you to speak in your brand voice or write in your particular way. So that's the difference between open systems and personal AI systems.
Yeah. From a family perspective, you said to introduce AI. What age do you think we should introduce AI to children? Because considering that kids going up from 10 to university
Yeah.
have the initiative to use AI for exams.
Right.
So I ask you, as well as oversight is required,
Right.
what age do you think we should introduce AI to children and to the household?
Well, so at 7 years old, I realized, like, so take a simple example, learning tables, right? 1, 2 is 2, 2, 2 is 4. I know my daughter is not going to enjoy sitting down like the back of the copybook and learning 1, 2 is 2 is 2, right? So I just said, are there videos on YouTube? So then you have Taylor Swift singing the tables and, a reggae version. And she is so much better by listening to it. And she gets up every morning and does the tables on the TV, right? On YouTube. And I don't see that as a problem. So I think from parents, the age doesn't matter. It's just that it has to be managed in terms of what they look at. So I allow her to do that. And then, she might, a short might come up and it's like, no, that's meant to kill your brain. There's short things and it's switching. It's like, no shorts, sorry. So I think that age is not necessarily a factor, but that parental guidance and setting limits and not saying here as a parenting tool, which a lot of people do, right? So I would say there's no age limit, to be quite honest. At 7, yeah, absolutely, in terms of what they're creating. And as I said, especially when it comes to education, we are trying to shove all of these different kids with different talents and skills and learning styles into one system. And that's how I feel that AI could actually, again, be a tool, not to replace the teacher, but that teacher who has a particular style that, my daughter may not relate to, you can't leave it up to chance, right? And this is an intelligence that will figure out what's her best learning style and present information in that particular way, So AI is still not great at math, so they still have to learn to do their math homework the proper way. But again, writing papers and that sort of thing. So I think the whole education system is going to have to change. What are we measuring? What does a grade represent? I think that's going to have to change. Is it the knowledge? Can I learn if AI produces something? Does that mean that I could learn this thing in a better way? Do we care how they learn or the fact that they learned? Right? Because our system cared about how we learned versus what we learned. Yeah? So I allow her to play around with it, but full supervision from me. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.